Welcome to the Kirkpatrick podcast, bridging traditions and trends in learning and performance evaluation. Whether you're a seasoned learning professional or just starting out, join us as we dive into the Kirkpatrick model like never before. Through stories and insights, we are fusing time-honored methods with cutting-edge innovations to help you navigate the ever-evolving world of learning and performance evaluation. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. We are so excited to be back with you all. I know that we left you on a little bit of a cliffhanger last time with giving you only 3 of the fatal evaluation flaws, but we're back with part 2, and we promise we will give you the final 3. Jim, how are you? Are you excited, ready for this last little bit?
You know, this really gets me going with this. Most of the topics we talk about does, but this excites me because they're so prevalent. These flaws are so prevalent, and I think we'll give it to you straightforward and in practical ways that you can really combat tradition and really see some exciting results from your efforts.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. So, what is fatal flaw number 4?
Well, it's evaluating each of the levels separately. Ooh, that even hurts me to
Okay, this
say
is a
that.
new one. Tell me more. I hadn't heard this one.
Well, and I know that most of you are relating that and saying, that's what the Kirkpatrick model is. It's level 1, right? We do level 1, which is a smile sheet at the end. Now, then level 2 takes over and we evaluate that also at the end after we do the smile sheet, and we do that with a knowledge test. And well, then the whole separate issue now becomes level 3. It's quite distant from the learning. And what we do with that is we look at level 3 in isolation with the typically a survey, maybe a little bit of observation or something. And then you know what happens? We don't even get to level 4 because we can't do it. It's out of our reach. And I've even seen university syllabus for a master's in instructional design technology that lists the levels. It said 1, 2, 3, 4 is irrelevant because it's beyond the scope of influencing it. It's for the CEOs. So,
Mm.
but the power comes, listen carefully, in connecting the levels, not separating and isolating them.
Oh, connecting them. Tell me more. What does that mean? You
Look at
just
you, you're
stumped me a little
pretending you
bit.
don't know. That's a good one, Vanessa.
No, I mean, I know. I am more familiar, I will say, with connecting levels 2 and 3. But I guess 3 and 4, but I'd love to hear more, especially about levels 1 and 2, and how to connect those. Um, yeah, I want to hear more from you as to when you're talking about connecting them.
Okay. All right, that's fair enough. Well, let's start with that. Let's start with level 1 and 2. Uh, some people, a lot of people, most people think it's a measure of customer satisfaction. And we just want to find out if they would refer the class to somebody else. That's typically what it
Mm,
is. And that's okay to know that. But what we're trying to do in the Kirkpatrick world is focus more on, are they finding relevance? It is what is
correct.
being taught, in my mind, relevant to what I'm supposed to do. And also, am I involved? Am I engaged? Have you captured my attention throughout? And those two are the more powerful ones rather than just, are you going to refer it? But um, following that is, are you getting it? Okay, that's
Mhm.
level 2. Are you getting it? And when we do virtual classes, for instance, you know, we're listening to people, they're talking on the phone bridge, they're typing in the chat rooms and all that stuff. And I'm looking to see if they're with us or not. I'm looking at, I know the roster,
Yeah.
I know there's 15 people, 20 people on the roster. I'm looking for how many names are popping up. I don't want to just see 5. I could say, oh, wow, 5 people love it. But I'm looking to see if they're with us by even just typing in. And I'm also
Mhm.
seeing if they're getting it or not, which is level 2, by what kind of comments they're making, what kind of questions they're asking, and what kind of additional thoughts are they sharing in the general chat. And it's the same in live classroom. You know, it's pretty easy to watch people. Are they with you or not? But the more
Yeah.
tricky one is finding relevance, because they can be with you and watching and and finding it sort of interesting, but not relevant. So that's why we use little checkpoints along the way and say, how will you use this? So look, which level is that? It's both. It's even all three, because it's you're looking at the content that they're hearing is level one, is that finding relevance?
Yeah.
How will they use it at level two? And maybe even what kind of outcomes you think you'll get as a result of doing this. You can connect all four of them in one sitting, in one method, by saying, you know, uh, is this making is this making sense to you? What kind of things will you do to apply it? And what kind of impact you think you might make by applying what you learned by keeping your close attention? And please don't think that they're supposed to be separated, because they're not. The powers in connecting them. And the methods that we use can be sitting down and getting two or three or even four of the levels in one sitting with the different methods that we use.
And I think, to be fair too, it is much easier now to do this with today's technology. I think in the past it was much harder because we did not have the use of social learning and communities, you know what I mean? And building these places for us to go connect, discuss things, with each other, so you can start to do those things. It doesn't just have to be in that moment. You could also still be evaluating this by, timely posting prompts, setting up communities and then posting prompts to have people connect and see, how they are applying it. You can see the questions that they're asking. So thinking of things like a Facebook group, right? I'm moving in a few months. And so one of the things I did, I joined the local Facebook group. And I know that's going to be the place where I'm going to go when I have questions, because a lot of them have been in a similar situation as me, or they just know the area, and I feel comfortable, and confident in getting that referral from others. Setting up communities like that could be so powerful to help you see and get that chain of evidence that we're looking for, right? Because people can go back to this community and say, hey, I don't know how to do this, or I'm getting stuck. Let's say it's sales training. I'm getting stuck overcoming this objection, right? And it doesn't always have to be the manager that provides you that feedback or provides you that support. Now you have a whole community that says, well, when I get this objection, I, try this tactic. And someone else says, well, I try this tactic, and it starts to build learning. And it doesn't have to come from the learning function always.
Vanessa, you've also brought up something that is extremely powerful, and I don't know many people that really understand it. But those what you're describing, when people are talking to each other, they're connecting. And we
Mhm.
talk all about attrition. Oh, we need to do a better job with onboarding. You know why people leave? Because they don't feel connected, they don't feel cared for, they don't feel appreciated, they don't see that what they're doing is making a difference. And what you're talking about, yeah, is it an evaluation method? Yeah, but it is also an onboarding method, because feel people now feel that I have friends at work. And all those studies that they do at the end of the year, best place to work, those are the questions that are always low. I don't have a friend at work. I don't have anybody that cares. And you don't need a separate HR initiative to do it. You do it in the way that you just described.
Well, essentially, what you're basically saying is one of my, this will be what if I hang my hat on till the day I die. People don't
I
leave
know.
organizations
I know.
that where they feel like they belong, you know? And people will stay through tough times, and they will really stick out in business. There are some times that you have some hairy situations. Not every year is a beautiful year, right? Let's go back to 2008 when I graduated. Not super fun year for business. But people who felt like they belong and they really believed in the organization, they stuck it out, even though maybe they didn't get that raise, or they didn't, get whatever it was. And so by building that connection, that community, that's really what you're looking for. And so now you have the opportunity to say, we could also evaluate how we're doing with that,
And I learned so much from it, from Anchor and from our new partnership here that about the technology. And rather than just
Yeah.
using technology and isolating it for delivering training, it is so great at bringing people together. And it just and even looking at the evaluation methods, surveys do nothing to build rapport. You know that all it
Right.
does is tick people off. Then leave me alone. But what
One
about
more
the other
survey.
method? Yeah, right. The other method of talking to people that builds rapport. How about being observed
Yeah.
in a caring manner? That builds rapport. So you're doing double duty. You're getting a lot of great intel, but you're also building those kind of relationships that work better and people stay with them.
Love that. So, fatal flaw number two, we have collecting, storing, and splitting data instead of gathering, analyzing, and drawing conclusions and acting on them. Tell me more what you're talking about here. Now we're getting into the really tactical. What do you do with the data that you're getting?
Yeah. Well, we want you to consider data as qualitative and quantitative. Okay. A lot
Okay.
of people think that data is either hard numbers or it's just anecdotal, that really doesn't mean much. Well,
Mm.
technology has come a long ways now in not just collecting survey data, but also what people are saying, their intentions and the
Right.
patterns we're seeing, right? And so we can get a lot of that information. Excuse me, I get all choked up about this. You can get a lot of information that segments well with the numbers. But so many people believe all our senior leaders wanted numbers. Numbers tell the whole story. Numbers do not tell the whole story. We get them while we can, but um, Vanessa, you've got, let's just say you've got a big heart for people, and I'm going to ask you a question, and I know you'll handle it. You work with your former sorority, don't you?
Yeah.
Now,
Hmm.
you may get some data on what you're talking about, but can
Hmm.
you see how what you are doing with them? You ever have any
Hmm.
success stories that really have helped people move into their life in a more meaningful manner because of you're working with them?
Oh, absolutely. So I get to, I'm so blessed to be able to oversee all of our alumni around the world. We have 200, and I never get this number 100% correct, 250 alumni or 250,000 alumni or 250,000 members, one of the two. Either
Good.
way, it's a lot of people. And so what we do is we started doing data collection and listening sessions and surveys, but we weren't surveyed before very much. And focus groups and interviews. I've got specialists that will go out to events and talk to members, talk to, officers and volunteers. And what we're doing from that is really gathering those stories and saying, and trying to show people the value in continuing with their membership post graduation, right? So we have sisterhood stories that we're weaving into, our social media and all of these things. We just launched a program called Member of Impact, a recognition program that showcases, to our membership and, outwardly to others, right? What are our members doing? And a lot of the stories that we're reading in the application, it started from their membership experience in Delta Gamma, and it flourished in this professional arena in their career, or here in their community. So you're able to really see, because of that, what they were able to do, what the outcome was. But I will say too, going back to the what we're analyzing, the hard data and the qualitative, you know, even the factual, not the right word, but that hard data, the numbers, there's still stories behind that, right? Even
Yes.
though it's a number. So for example, when we
Right.
did our survey, um, it'll be a year. It looked like a lot of people that took it. But in fact, it was maybe only 1% of our membership that ended up taking it. And then when you actually looked, behind the curtain, when Oz pulls the curtain back, it was a specific demographic that only took the survey because
uh-huh.
and it was a fatal flaw that we did, because we only shared the survey in primarily a couple of fashions, but really only one, right? We email people. Well, we know our younger members do not like email. They treat email like we all treat our snail mail, right? Like there's a lot of junk in there, and we were not reaching out to people in the best way that reached out to them. So it actually skewed our data, right? So it looked like, hey, this is what all of our members want, but when we were actually looking at the people and the numbers, it was not accurate. It didn't actually reflect the entire our entire alumni membership. And actually what we have to do is we also simultaneously surveyed our collegians, so our women that are in college right now. And what I'm doing now is taking that data and layering it with our alumni data to see what do our members want as a whole. And these collegians are going to become alumni, so, how can we start to make the membership experience something that they want and not just the way things have always been done? Thank you for
And I
coming to my TED Talk. Because
and
I
I
get
know
what you get hot and bothered about about the evaluation fatal flaws. This is where I get very hot and bothered,
that's
and
why
have had a
I
lot
thought
of
I
conversation.
all I needed to do was give you a little tap, and I knew you'd
Yeah,
go with it. But you
yeah,
know what else about that? When we give presentations, and soon we're gonna be doing a lot of presentations with guests, aren't we? You know, from the
yeah.
business side, from the military, different sides.
Hmm.
What we like to do is invite somebody to our bronze training, for instance, and have them come
Right.
in. If I do this when I'm on the road dealing with it in organizations face to face, I invite someone to come in, or just virtually come in. You know what they say?
Hmm.
I was sitting where you are a year ago in a class similar to this, and let me tell you my story that's happened in the
Hmm.
last year by implementing this and by the relationships and the new methods that I've learned. And that's better than just saying, trust me, you know. And I know, Vanessa, you could, I know there are faces in your mind that you could do that with
Hmm.
the people that have a story to tell. And the very best way to tell a story is not just, wow, it's been great, but here's what I
Hmm.
used to do. And here are the kind of results I got. And here's what I'm doing now. And we're seeing so much better metrics coming from the
Hmm.
workplace because we have been connecting people and unleashing their own spirit into the workplace rather than just wondering who are they going to have lunch with today, if anybody.
Exactly. Exactly. Are there any recommendations that you have for drawing, coming up with drawing your own stories and conclusions based on the data that you're getting?
Yes. And that is to pretend you're an attorney. You know, in the United States, we call them
Oh.
attorney, lawyers, barristers, in
Mhm.
England, different things. And what I want you to do is a very common practice called discovery. Okay, go into the workplace and hopefully they'll know you already because you've been there before and just start talking to people. And what you're trying to do is find out if there's anybody that maybe has a story that can help support your case. And that is this collaborative Kirkpatrick model, this Kirkpatrick effort is really leading to more significant results. And all of a sudden you'll say, well, wait a minute, like Vanessa, I tapped her about a sorority because I knew she had a story to tell. And what I would want
Mhm.
to do is then do a deposition, using a legal term. All right, Vanessa,
Mhm.
wait a minute. You're talking too fast. Let me get all this down and find out exactly what happened. And that's where the stories come from, is you just looking for somebody. It could be at any level, or you could be asking supervisors, who is the bright light? Who is the overachiever? May
Right.
I have some time with that person? And that's you say, whoa, wait a minute. And don't we, Vanessa, we have people lined up
Mhm.
because of that's how we've done relationships over the years that we know they have a story and they're also humble of spirit. And we have to kind of draw them out because they're not trying to make a send, a great story in themselves, but they want to help others. And so go
Yeah.
find they're out there, but they're not in the classroom. They're not at level one, level two. They're in the workplace. And that's where you need to be spending more of your time by scaling back some of the unnecessary training that's being designed and developed.
Yeah. It's all about that servant leadership for sure.
It is. There's one more fatal
But
flaw I'd like to mention that just to put the
Number
icing on
6,
the cake.
I don't know, this one I feel like could have been my number 1, um,
All
honestly,
right,
but
let's hear it.
I'll let you have this one.
Thinking that you have to do it all yourself. In
Mhm.
the world of learning and development,
Yeah.
in that realm, thinking, wow, this stuff on the other side of the
Mm.
bridge that Vanessa and Kirkpatrick talk about. Uh, I don't have much time to go there. I'm so busy here, but I would like to do something. Well, what you can do here's the key words: recruit. You are recruiting senior leaders to help with this process. They already know they're going to be signing on and helping with this rather than just signing off the money. And so you recruit them, the ones that are willing, that they will be helping to do the level 3 driving and the encouraging of people that are getting stuck and championing those who are doing well. You're also recruiting your former graduates who have done a good job. They're super performers at work,
Mhm.
and the line managers. You merely have to kind of organize it and give them some light training. And here are some things that you can do that is going to help supercharge and leverage the training that they went through. So you don't have to be there all the time. You pop in once in a while to see how things are going. But
Yep.
that's what a lot of people, in fact, a friend of mine, Billy McLeod, he was a former director of a federal agency called DCAA, something about contracting. And he called me once. Uh, and I'm so excited, Jim. I got to tell you what, I don't have to do it all myself. I finally realized that. And
Mhm.
he went on and on, said, Billy, I got to go. Nice story, but I don't know what was happening, but that's how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a light bulb. I was recently at the New York City ATD micro conference, and that was a
Yeah,
light bulb moment for I had 2 workshops that day. In one of the workshops, that was their light bulb. They're like, "Oh, I can get others to support me in this," And I told them again, it's about designing with the end in mind, and really having the ability to be forward thinking of, okay, we're gonna want to have to measure this at level 3, right?
right,
How can we do that? Well, who can we tap? Well, if I need to start thinking about some champions or super users or superstars, what do they need? And start to fold that into my design process, right? In my development process. Or, if I want to have their manager have a conversation with them, well, what if I provide a conversation guide for that manager, right? And maybe when it's that,
yes,
90
very
days,
good,
I schedule it, they'll schedule a time, right? But I put it on their calendar. Hey, this month I want you to reach out to so and so, your employee, and here is the conversation guide for your next one on one. And you know what? With today's technology, again, with these learning management systems
right.
becoming more robust, and the ability to add, non, e-learning type of activities into learning management system, you can upload those things. It doesn't have to be a whole bunch of paper that you're collecting, right? It could become part of the employee record.
I'd like to just tell a quick story, if that's all right. There's a
Hmm.
federal agency called OMB, Office of Management and Budget, and they take the money that IRS in the United States here gathers, and they dole it out to the 200 some federal agencies based on need and opportunity and so forth. And a couple of years ago, I was working with the two of their leaders. They developed a leadership program trying to develop leaders within OMB that could then go to other agencies. And they ended, I think they had 15 the first year, and then summertime off. And then they're getting ready for their second cadre to coming. And the one guy knocks on the door of Dave and says, "Hey, I love the training, I love the leadership opportunities. If you need any help with this next group, let me know." And you know what, Vanessa, true
Hmm.
story. I haven't told you this one before, but about 8 of those 15 people said, can we be involved in some way? And I'm telling you,
Hmm.
that was paying it forward because they were so honored to 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 finally they kind of invited themselves, but when they said yes, we'd like you to lead little mentoring groups or something,
Exactly.
and they were so honored. And if you think you're putting people off, you're probably wrong because those are the kind of people that would be honored and so thankful to get an opportunity to pay it back and to give to others. And that's usually the kind of the
Hmm.
spirit. So don't say no for them. Give them the opportunity, and I think you'll be surprised how many say, "I thought you'd never ask. I'm ready to do what I can."
Amazing. Now, before we go, a couple of quick questions I have for you.
Okay.
Why do you think these flaws are so prevalent? I mean, a lot of these are kind of tale as old as time, but why do you think we're still doing them?
Because they're easy to do. Number one, you
Mhm.
got an LMS,
Okay.
can do the surveys, and you've got an LMS that can do the testing. And I don't know anything about it. You're pushing some buttons, and it's easy to do that. It's also traditional. Why change it if it's not broken? Well, it's not broken. It's just not enough. And the third is that I could get into trouble for this. Is that vendors and look at the the expo halls. They are filled with those kind of the uh, services and products that do that. And so there's a lot of lobbying for that. And there isn't. Go through a big expo hall sometime and see how much there is on execution and application and behavior change and performance. Most of it is technology for delivering the training. And so, Vanessa, those
Mhm.
are the three things. It's tradition, it's easy, and human nature. We gravitate toward what we're familiar and comfortable with, despite the
Yeah.
fact that they are just not working.
Yeah.
These flaws.
Unless anchored training is in the expo hall, then you got at least one vendor that's worried about the people. But
I
I
know that. That's
I
true.
I will say too, I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I think it's something that we do ourselves too is we're looking for that one magic bullet to like do all the things. Where in fact, like, this is how we look at AI, right? Like, we want it to do all the things for us, where in
Right.
fact, there is still a
Right.
human element that has to be part of it. Um, and in all reality, yes, those things are nice and you can execute on that. Um, and now, because you're doing it through that format, if you now you have hopefully more capacity to have some of those conversations if you are good at and have the ability to ward off some of the requests and say that's not really a training request or that's not really what we should be doing. Let's talk about a different option, right? If they say they need training for X but a job aid is all that they need, try to really advocate for that job aid. Don't always feel like they
Yep.
have to you have to oblige. Sometimes that they say training because that's all that senior leader really knows, and maybe they just didn't think of job aid or something like that, and you could have recommended
Right.
it. I've
Right.
flipped a few people that way, right? Hey, I think all we need is this, and they're like, okay, that sounds good, and it gets the job done, and that's all we needed. And you know what, I
There.
just saved myself a lot of time.
And you just said it. It gets the job done. Did you hear yourself
Hmm.
say that?
I
That's
did.
exactly
I
what it's
did.
about, getting the job done, not just filling your head full of competencies or the shiny new object or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And it's they also say level 3 is it's very almost impossible because it's very touchy, it's expensive. How expensive is it to teach people to come along someone else and say, I noticed what you did and I appreciate that. There's no expense. The expense is we're spending 6 months instructional designing and designing something to death. That's where the
Yeah.
expense comes.
And you want to know something else about that,
Yep,
Jim?
I do.
I also know that a lot of organizations spend a lot of money on their leadership development programs to do that, right? So they do there are facets of your organization that are trying to develop leaders and trying to develop people that have those conversations,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
So someone does value them, right? So there probably is value in your organization. So by developing that competence and asking others to develop that skill through your.
Yep. She froze up a little bit. I'll take it from there. What I think I know Vanessa well enough to know is you want to take those skills that have been developed, right? All those programs are called leadership development. You're always developing people and turn it into a leadership performance training, not just leadership develop, but turn it into something where they're actually doing something rather than continually being developed. I tried to put words in your mouth because I know you froze there for a bit.
I froze.
You're
Thank
back.
you. Back. She's back. Awesome. Jim, Any final words or thoughts for our friends?
Yeah. uh, the fatal flaws is kind of a downer, but if we didn't give you enough positives, here's a couple quickies. One is to build relationships with people between the levels. You know, the instruction designers with the learning, with the subject matter experts, with the senior leaders. As much as you can build those relationships, it is the platform and the bedrock of progress and things that you can work. And then uh, s- don't try and do it too quickly. This model
Mm,
is something that you must move slowly
work up
because
to.
people will freak out. So look for
Yeah.
some um, mission-minded, open-minded people on the other side of the bridge on the workplace side, and see if they'll partner you with something. And just go and say,
Hmm.
we're doing really well with this program. I think we could do better. They'll hopefully
Yeah.
say, really? How? Well, I'm glad you're interested. And then you talk about a proof of concept, not a giant scope, but something that's manageable, because then you can show that this works. And senior leaders are not going to just take you at faith anymore and as your word, but you can show them that it works. And then finally, look for those nuggets, those people that are not going to be the ones that are promoting themselves. They're going to be the ones that you'll have to ferret out and share those stories that will help inspire others.
I love that. That makes it so manageable. And I appreciate you sharing um one of the recommendations that I share so often when people say to me, well, how can we change how we're doing learning and development? I'm like, you gotta find your champions. You gotta find the people. And you gotta start small. Just try one little task, one little initiative, something that you can really own and control a little bit of, and show people how it can be done. Because that's really what they're looking for. They want to see it in action with their own organization, their own people, their own data. Once they can see it being done with their organization, that the proof is right there in the pudding. So now there's no reason for them to want to continue to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jim. Y'all, I promise we will be a little bit more fun and uplifting. There won't be anything deadly the next podcast. We are very excited to be going on this journey with you all. And we look forward to hearing more about your stories. If you have, need help with a fatal flaw, or if you want to share your story about how you've turned around a fatal flaw and turned it into a positive, we would love to hear it. Feel free to reach out at any time and share that on our social media, and make sure you tag at Kirkpatrick Partners on LinkedIn, because we'd love to have a conversation with you about how you're executing evaluation in your organization. Friends, thank you so much for listening today or watching. We will see you very soon. Make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. And again, we are so excited to be on this evaluation journey with you. Jim, thank you so much for your time today.
All right. Take care, everybody.